Good afternoon and welcome. It's fantastic to see so many people here. I can't tell you how excited I am about all of this. I don't know if you know about rose trees, so I just want to give you a little bit of a picture which isn't scientific. Maybe you've seen The King and I, and it's all about two different worlds, the King of Siam and the English governess. And she sings a song called Getting to Know You. Well, that could be our signature tune, because this afternoon is how we get to know you and you get to know us. Most of you here are researchers. Could you just indicate with your arm up whether you've ever had support from Rosetrees? Wow. And if you're in London, would you put your arm up if you've been supported and you've met one of our representatives? Okay, that's lovely. That's important, because one of the things we do that's unique is that we meet all our researchers. And don't ask me why, but many charities that support medical research don't do that. So let me just tell you a bit about my family background, because Rosetrees is a private charity. My grandparents came from Poland about 100 years ago. They were poor, and therefore my parents started off with very little in the world. They married in 1937, 75 years ago, and they worked together initially, and then when my brother and I were born, my mother looked after us at home in the traditional old style of a family, and my father worked. My father was hard-working, he was industrious, he was dynamic. Ironically, although he didn't have a long education, he has an enormous amount in common with those of you who are researchers, because to find a way forward, he had to think outside the box, and that's what you do. So he would appreciate everything that you're doing. By 1987, which is 25 years ago, my parents had been successful, and they decided to share their good fortune with others, and they created Rosetrees Trust. Initially, we supported welfare, until quite early on we got a letter from Professor Richard Begents, who was studying cancer at the Royal Free, and he said, would you support my research, which was targeted treatment of cancer instead of chemotherapy to the whole body. I knew nothing whatsoever about science, I'm an accountant, but that sounded like a good idea to me, so we supported him. My mother, who was one of the trustees, said, well, I like welfare, and she was very, very generous, and she supported the building of an old age home which was state-of-the-art. And I said to Mum, this home is terrific, but the people in there have dementia. They don't know what day of the week it is. If we could find people who could research dementia and they never needed to go in that home, that would be better. And she agreed, and that was the beginning of our support for medical research. And so we've slowly built on that. Gradually, John's over here. John and I went to school together. We went to the LSE, and they taught what we call the one-page system. And those of you who've had our application form know all about the one-page system, because on that one page you have to say who you are, where you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, what the benefit will be, and how much it will cost. And many people find it difficult to do that. But in fact, the test of someone who's good at what they can do is the ability to say in just a few words what they're doing. And gradually over the years we've extended what we do, and we have a system now of one page. It's one page when you apply to us, it's one page when you report to us after 6 months, and it's one page when you finish your project. And as I'm a businessman, and as a businessman I wouldn't back any of you, okay? So the good news is we're not doing this as a business, but we have to make sure that what you do is worthwhile. My parents, and particularly my father, worked unbelievably hard, so I won't allow any of you to waste a penny of our money, whatever you do. I asked a professor once, because you don't always get a result from your research, I asked a professor, are we wasting our money? He said, as long as every person you support is doing first-class research, you're not wasting your money. And all of you who get money from us should be pleased to know you're doing cracking work, because you wouldn't be getting the money otherwise. So we now have this system of one page. At the end of the project, we ask you, what did you set out to achieve, and did you achieve what you set out to do? And if you did, we're happy. And it's an important question, because what we're trying to convey to you today is we don't want you to be brilliant in an obscure field which has no human benefit. That's fantastic, but it's not what we're here for. We are here to help translational research, to help people come up with ideas which will one day benefit and be used, and preferably sooner rather than later. So to help us in that process, we have some very, very important people. We have Professor David Katz, who voluntarily comes to us every 2 months when we consider your applications and gives us his expert opinion, things that we wouldn't know, which help us to pick out the very best. We also have an advisory panel led by Patrick Maxwell, and also including Molly Stevens, Roger Barker, Ian Cameron, and just this year the President of the Royal College of Surgeons, Norman Williams, has joined us. We meet once a year, and their function is to direct us in the right way to make sure, and just to give you one small example, they say you support PhD students, it's usually a 3-year course, but sometimes at the end of that course there's a little bit more that could be gathered, which in 3 or 6 months would probably be worth as much as the whole 3 years before it. So we give only a relatively small amount of money to allow those people to get the maximum benefit. So at the moment we currently have 200 projects running, and it covers every aspect of medical research. You are the people producing this work, and it's fantastic. Chris has organised today with Emily and Sam, who's my chief executive over there, standing in the corner, hasn't got a seat, poor fellow. And it's a lot of work to organise this, but we are just so thrilled that you've all come. We hope that you will take away from here today a thought. Wherever I go, when I go to a meeting, what did I learn from it? When you go home, ask yourself, what did I learn that's outside of my area that will make what I do more useful and more beneficial in the future? When I meet a researcher for the first time, I tell them I'm 8 years old and they have to speak so they understand. And it's amazing when I do that, they do it in very simple, clear terms. So you can practice by asking your friends who aren't scientists to see if they understand you. And if they do, then you know you're on the right path. Good luck. I'm sure you're going to enjoy this afternoon, and let's listen to all the next speakers.